In this video, you'll see how to make your own slider using Verse UI. Tune in for the details. Hello, today we are going to do a tutorial on Verse UI, specifically creating a slider with Verse UI. There are multiple ways to do this, including using textures and stuff, but for our tutorial we'll just use simple colored rectangles where we will have a background element and a foreground element. And actually, instead of telling, let me show you first. So if we come to UEFN, we can create a UI widget. Right, what will we have is, I'm adding image here, but in Verse UI we are going to do something different, but visually it will be the same. So we will have two rectangles like this. One will be the background rectangle and the other one will be the foreground rectangle. So I just made the background rectangle black for now. And what we will do is we also want to set the alignments are correct. So we will simply when we want to move the slider, we will just move the we will scale the horizontal size of the foreground rectangle. So then effectively we will have a slider that we can control. So why can't we just use this widget that I have just created in seconds? Well, we can show this widget using a HUD message device, but we can't access and edit the properties of these rectangles here. At least not right now when I'm doing this video. Instead, we need to create this slider widget in Verse UI to edit it at runtime. So come back to VS Code. So first off, we need to write the function that will create and return our canvas for us. Then we can just update the contents of that canvas easily. So let's call it create custom canvas, and it will return a canvas object. Now we positioned our canvas slot. Canvas slot is the object where we use to put in our widgets on our canvas. It allows us to specify the alignment, the anchor, and the offset of our canvas slot. Since I'm going to use the default offset, I didn't specify it. Default offset is obviously 0, 0. Instead of setting the offset, I have set the anchors instead. So this will be at the left center position of the screen. So, and then we need to specify the widget for this canvas slot. So we could actually do where, you know, we could have 2 canvas slots, and for each slot we would have our rectangle widget. But instead of doing that, because since we want to put these on the same position, so we can actually use another widget that is going to help us, which is called overlay widget. So instead of using 2 different canvas slots, we are going to use 1 canvas slot, and in that canvas slot we are going to have our overlay widget, and under that overlay widget we will have we will have multiple slots for our widgets. What overlay widget does is just it puts widgets on top of each other, and that is what we need right now. So I have defined my widgets on the overlay slot. You can see that my background, I have gave it the color black, and my foreground has the color green. With the overlay slot, and actually with the canvas slots as well, and any type of slots that a UI widget might have, they all share this property where the first slot that is defined going to be rendered first on the screen. So that's how this black rectangle is going to be my background rectangle, because since I defined it first, it is going to be rendered first on the screen, so it will be behind. And also let's put a text widget on top of our rectangle, so in front of our slider, so we know that what it stands for. So for now I just called it slider, and I can't directly set a string. I need to use a message object here that I call text for UI to convert a string to a message. Um, okay, now we can create our canvas, but we also need to update our slider because we want to decrease or increase its fill level while we are playing the game. So we are gonna define a new function called update slider, and this is going to take two arguments, two parameters. First one will be the canvas and the second one will be the fill rate that we want to set. Now you can see how we access the actual widgets using slot indexes and casting the widget to the desired widget type. So now we'll just adjust the foreground widget's horizontal size using this fill rate. Cool. Now we can update our slider with any fill rate value we want. Awesome. So we create our custom canvas, but how do we actually store it? The answer is a map. We will store each player's canvas using a map of canvases indexed by players. Now let's actually call to create a canvas and assign it to players. We can do this when a player spawns. So we need to define our player spawners. So we will define them as editable, so we can set them from the editor. Then we will set our canvas when a player spawns. So when a player spawns, we create a canvas for that player, and then we set the canvas on the map for later usage. But we also do something where we add the canvas on something called Player UI. Player UI is basically how we tell Fortnite that we want this canvas to be shown on this player screen. And if you ever want to remove the canvas, we can just call remove widget on Player UI, or we can hide the canvas. So before proceeding to update our slider on certain events, let's first write a helper function that will return us the fill rate of our slider. You'll see in a minute how this will be quite useful. Now what we want is some logic where we call to update the slider. For our tutorial purposes, we can create something called jump points, where we increase the points when the player jumps and we decrease it when the player crouches. So actually, let's come here and update a slider text to be called as jump points. So of course there are events that will tell us when a jump or crouch occurred, and we can bind our functions to them in our onPlayer spawn function. So let's do that. Now, what we'll do with our onPlayer jump and onPlayer crouch function is using the previously written calculate slider fill rate function, and then using this function we will fill the slider by 10% on jumps and decrease it by 10% on crouches. Simple as that. So as I said, and as you can see, we fill the slider on a jump and then we decrease it, unfill it on a crouch. And then we also use clamp because we don't want the slider value to overflow or underflow. And great, now let's see this in action. And also don't forget to add your player spawner's references or it won't work. So as you can see, we have our jump points widget on the center left, and when I jump, you can see that slider is increasing the foreground rectangle, and it will stop at, because we clamped it, it does not increase anymore after it gets to the full value. And when I crouch, you can see that it decreases, and it is not going to decrease more than the minimum value. So yeah, you can make really awesome stuff with this slider widget. You can use it for very creative stuff. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe and share if you have enjoyed, and also leave a comment on what tutorial you would want to see next. See you later.